All right, welcome to the 2020 offseason. We are one day past the new Super Bowl with Kansas City Chiefs as the new champions. I am the contained Kunas. This is Stat 7 Sports, and we're going to start off by going through a bit of the quarterback free agency class. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go through every single position. I'm only doing this one because the quarterbacks are the faces of the NFL at this point. And outside of this, I'll probably go through a few top free agents on where I think they could possibly go or where they actually go and what's the reaction on where they go, what's the money, and is this a mistake or not? But for this, I'm just going to talk about the quarterbacks just to have a little fun with it. But just to start out, we have a multitude of teams. Oof. Oh, a multitude of teams that need quarterbacks. Ooh. You first start, ignore the Jaguars at this point, but you first start with the Bengals and the Dolphins. Both of them are very likely to draft quarterbacks in the beginning of the draft. Bengals more than likely Joe Burrow for LSU. And the Dolphins more than likely going to draft Tua Tagovailoa, or depending on Senior Bowl details and combine, pro day, stats, measurables, all that, potentially Justin Herbert out of Oregon. Now, outside of those, you have a few teams that may seem a little bit surprising. If you include the Jaguars on this list, then you have the Patriots with Tom Brady as a free agent. You got the Raiders, which, yes, I know it sounds like a surprise for y'all to see them on there, but I'll explain why later. The Titans, which, as I was making this video, we didn't know what was going to happen, but I'll discuss that shortly. The Colts, they're an interesting one because you'd think in their state, like they had their first full year with Jacoby Brissett, and it's hard to say it's the first full year for the fact that Andrew Luck retired just a couple weeks before the season started. So it's like, a couple weeks before preseason, I mean. So it's kind of hard to get a full judge on him, despite the fact that he played whenever Luck was hurt, and he played this whole season. But there is potential there. I do also believe whichever one of these teams don't actually get quarterbacks in free agency, I do expect them to draft, if not both. Like the Bengals and the Dolphins. Okay, Dolphins might just go ahead and keep Fitzpatrick, who has said he's coming back and not retiring yet. The Bengals will probably end up getting a veteran that is on the cheap. I'll discuss a couple options in a bit, but we also move on to the Chargers, where Phillip Rivers is a free agent. He's sold his home that was in San Diego in the Los Angeles area. So I don't see him coming back, but for longevity, there's possibility. Now, if you go with NFC, there's not as many teams that have quarterback concerns. You got the Bears, where Trubisky was not good this year. From year 2 to year 3, he took a giant step back, where you had fans at Soldier Field, you had all sorts of announcers and all that. They started booing him, saying that, Bears made a big mistake on trading up to get Trubisky in a same draft that had your Super Bowl MVP with Patrick Mahomes, and probably, I didn't look anything up on it, at least a top 5, maybe even top 3 MVP finisher in Deshaun Watson. Then you have the Cowboys, who have not figured out what they're going to do with Dak Prescott. Now, Prescott's going to get paid wherever he goes because he still was second in the league in passing yards, and Dallas was number one in total offense. So Prescott is a big part of that. Between him, Ezekiel Elliott, and their group of receivers, between Cobb, between Amari Cooper, between Witten, who's going to retire again, and a few others, Tony Pollard, yada yada. But they got the Prescott issue and Jerry Jones and what's going to happen with Prescott given Mike McCarthy becomes a coach. Then you have to go with the hometown Saints, where the fact is right now, the Saints have no quarterbacks on their active roster. I say active roster, but that no one has an active roster at the time. But all three of their quarterbacks from this past year are some sort of free agent. Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater, and Taysom Hill is a restricted free agent. So, and that is essentially, other teams can try to sign him, but the Saints can put a tender on him to where if they actually want to sign him, they have to the team trying to sign him has to give up a select round draft pick based off of what that tender is. Like a first round pick, second round pick, mid to late round picks, so on and so forth. Now, that's going to be interesting how they decide what they decide to do on that. Then you have the whole Cam Newton situation in Carolina. So, Cam Newton didn't play the entire year. Kyle Allen started most of the games. Then you had Will Grier come in at the very end because he was a rookie out of West Virginia and Florida. But I don't expect Will Grier to be any sort of factor in this. And then there's the Tampa Bay Bucks with Jameis Winston, who is the top passer, who threw the most passing yards in the NFL, over 5,000 yards. Congrats. There's like 10 people who have done that. 10 total times that's happened now. But Jameis also made history by making 30 touchdowns and 30 picks. And the Bucks are going to more than likely try to move on from him. But let's go ahead and start with the Patriots themselves. The widely considered GOAT, Tom Brady. Now, I know most people saw the Hulu commercial yesterday where saying that he was coming back, that he's not retiring, all that. So I'm not going to give retiring an option on Brady. But I don't know if there is potential that he won't actually re-sign with the Patriots. This could all just be a big sort of fluff on his part to just try to make Patriots make more noise on it and get him to pay more, because previous times Brady has been coming back at a discount. He hasn't been getting paid based on the quarterback market based off of his skill level. I may not like Brady, but I respect that part. Now, a few teams I could see him potentially going to, and I've heard certain rumblings on. The Oakland Raiders. The reason I put the Raiders on here is the fact that John Gruden wants to get his quarterback. I don't know if he's sold yet on Derek Carr. So he could come into the situation in the free agency market on that, for the fact that he could be a trade target for any of these teams that don't sign one of these free agents. And between him and Mike Mayock and whatever they want to do in the draft, they're not going to stay with at least just Derek Carr. Brady could be an option, although it would be weird to see Brady in Vegas. That feels off. Then there's the Chargers, who this actually seems like the more expected option, where both the Raiders and Chargers have one thing in common where they're actually it actually might be closer with the Raiders than the Chargers, but for the past few years they've been thought to be a quarterback away, or having very few pieces being away from being a playoff team, playoff contender. The Chargers were in the playoffs 2 years ago now, and they were competing strongly with the Chiefs for that division. Now I think Mahomes has that on lock, but both these teams could be high potentials on getting one of those wild card spots. And with Brady at the helm, even though he has a noodle of an arm left, with his playoff experience could help them to go further in the postseason. But the Chargers don't really have any sort of home field advantage, so that doesn't bode well in that one. And then there's the third option of him going back to New England, which, as hard as it seems to believe that he would actually leave New England after all of these years, his entire career, leaving Belichick, you had the Brady-Belichick combination. You've heard rumblings from the outside saying that there's been internal conflict between him, Belichick, Kraft, and Brady wants out. But it feels like a lot of just random white noise. I would love to see him away from the Patriots, because just to see him have to prove it and honestly fail in another place, that'd be nice to see. But like, really, my first pick would be him. My first expectation would be him going back to New England. Second, and it's going to be a little unusual way of getting there, but I could see him going to the Chargers. And I know I put a San Diego Chargers logo on there. They should still be in San Diego because they have no fan base in LA. But to be fair, the Raiders have just started having a fan base in Vegas, because that's where they'll start next year. Also, because with the Raiders, might want to get a big name to help sell that franchise. That's another reason for the Raiders. I don't think Brady's going to want to go to the Gruden-led team. I think he could potentially want to go to wear the same colors they used to wear in college at Michigan. So I would say if he does not return to New England, Foxborough, he'll go to LA. Then we'll go with one that's a little bit easier to figure out. Drew Brees. There's two choices. This will be quick and simple. Either he's coming back, or he can go prep for a statue to be made in New Orleans, right in front of the Superdome. He's already stated he doesn't want to play anywhere besides New Orleans, and fans love him. The whole NFL loves him. As much as the Chargers would love to get him back in their franchise, it ain't happening. He's either staying or he's retiring. And the one who's most worried about that is going to be Teddy Bridgewater. Because if Brees retires, then Teddy's going back to the Saints. I don't see how that's not happening. I know there's been rumblings on the fact that they might make Taysom Hill the starting quarterback in next year, but I think that's going to be at best a year or two away, despite Taysom's age of 30. Bridgewater's still 25. He has experience. He's won games whenever Brees was hurt earlier. So, but let's just say Brees returns. I think he's not staying in New Orleans if that's the case. So Chicago needs another quarterback to at least compete with Trubisky. Trubisky was bad last year. Bridgewater would be someone who has mobility that's similar to Trubisky, but is definitely a much better decision maker. As I was saying, he could return to the Saints. Also, he could go to Carolina, depending on what they do with Newton. Same thing. While in while Teddy is definitely more sleight of frame than Cam Newton, it seems like he would fit in very well to be able to. A lot of things that Carolina wants to do is similar to the Saints in a way that whenever, like in his starts, he had Kamara in the backfield to dump off. He had Michael Thomas. He had Jared Cook. So for Carolina, you got Christian McCaffrey, you got Greg Olsen, even though Greg Olsen probably won't return, isn't expected to return to Carolina. You got DJ Moore, who's young, Curtis Samuel, who's a slot guy. So there's a lot of pieces that would match up fairly well, despite the top receiver not matching up to Michael Thomas, but no one really can now. Then there's Phillip Rivers. I just actually think this would be funny. Rivers going to Jacksonville. But he's already moved out of his home in LA, has gone to Florida, so that makes this entirely plausible. Then you have him possibly wanting to be able to go to the Colts to be like a 1 or 2 year starter before he retires and try to lead the Colts to the Super Bowl because they are a very promising team. They can compete with the Texans and the Titans for that division. And really, that would make the entire division's quarterback, like every team in that division, their quarterbacks would be a step up. Because if he goes to the Colts, he's going to beat out Jacoby Brissett. If he goes to the Jaguars, he'll beat out Nick Foles and Gardner Minshew. Sorry, Minshew Mania is not going to work out if he goes there. Then there's him potentially going back to San Diego. At this point, LA. He's not, even though he's been there the whole career and he doesn't seem like one that's going to be very sold on staying in one place the entire time. The one thing on quarterbacks is if you're good enough through your first or second contracts, you're going to just keep getting paid and the money's going to match the market. You're going to get your 20, 30 mil for any quarterbacks. But in this case, I think his most likely option is going to be down also in Florida, where he's gotten another home in Tampa Bay, because I don't think they're keeping Winston. And while he's a gunslinger like Winston, he is not near as turnover prone, even though this past year he definitely took a step back. Then right before I made this video, I was going to discuss Ryan Tannehill, but he has already stated that he has no plans of leaving Tennessee because he's about to get paid. So let's go on ahead with that. Then there's Newton. He's expressed interest to want to come back. Panthers want to bring him back, but the fact that he's injury prone, that he has not thrown for over 60% except for 1 year, and that's not even his MVP season, and his Super Bowl run that he lost to against the Broncos. But if he doesn't go to Carolina, the Bears are another option that I could believe he could go to. Big, strong arm, just like Trubisky. The Bears have a lot of receiving options that, like, he could get the ball downfield to Allen Robinson to get him to go up and catch it. If Kevin White can get healthy, Trey Burton, if he can stay healthy, Tariq Cohen in the backfield, which is a smaller Christian McCaffrey. So there is options there that can definitely make this offense better. Anthony Miller is a good slot guy. Then there's the Dak Prescott situation. He's going to get 30 plus mil even though he had an 8-8 season that he did not even win his division. And it was given to, that division was given to Dallas in their lap, and they flopped. It was fun to watch, but I don't see how he's not going back to Dallas. But I will give one what if possibility for the near future. Holdout. He could hold out in Dallas, make them pay him top 5 quarterback money. I could see that being a possibility. Join all of them from last year between Darius Slay, Jadeveon Clowney, Trent Williams, and Ndakwe. I'm not going to try to pronounce that first name. But now we go with 2 free agents that have been former top 2 picks. They're going to be forever linked. Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. 2 former Heisman Trophy winners. And 2 quarterbacks that have underperformed. Now this one's going to be, I would actually say out of these 2, the one that's more likely to pull a starting position out, I think it's going to be Winston. Because of the fact that Mariota has not stayed healthy. Winston has all the arm talent in the world. But even when Mariota was healthy, he struggled. Tannehill took his spot. Winston never actually lost his starting position. He had Bruce Arians, the Tampa Bay coach, behind him the entire time despite all of the interceptions. Because he's got the talent, but he's also to make some LSU players kind of cringe over. He's the Jamarcus Russell of the NFL right now. Because he's not as bad as Russell was, but he is dumb in the head. Now Mariota. Now both of these actually had their last games of their college career. Well, in actually the initial playoff matchups, whenever Mario and Winston played each other, and then Mario won that matchup to end up losing to Ohio State that following round. So it's hard to see where Mariota would go, except Chicago seems a possibility for a bunch of these teams. And whichever one of those AFC West teams that doesn't get Brady, I think one of these are going to be a possibility. It could be an easy swap between Winston and Rivers. And Mariota, he's injury prone, but even so, Tennessee still used him in kind of goal line packages and wildcat packages. So any team that can style an offense to where through RPOs that really hasn't gotten too far. It's gotten further in the NFL, but it's still kind of a new system that's come through the college. Now, let's have a little fun. Let's suggest some craziness happens. Let's say Rivers, Stafford, Derek Carr, and Tom Brady are not on their same teams come next year. Stafford goes to New England. Carr loses his job after Brady goes to the Raiders. So Carr could end up going to Detroit. Carr could go to... Oh, it could get nuts if that happens. Carr could go to Carolina. Carr could go to Tampa Bay. Ooh, that would be... That'd be interesting. Like, one thing that one thing that Stafford has never had is a team with a quality defense. Seeing him in New England, as much as I would hate it, I think he pulls those wide receivers that have apparently no skill, and they go to the AFC Championship game, at least. I would call that if he goes to New England. Rivers, it's kind of iffy if you see if he has that much left. So you don't know if he's really going to make that much of a difference wherever he goes. Like, he's still solid, but he's not... I don't know if he's going to be one that's going to raise a franchise up to potential Super Bowl status. But then there's the crazy possibility that someone really wants to take a risk and bring Andy Dalton around. Because they're not keeping him in Cincinnati. He's a free agent. They're about to draft Joe Burrow. He could go anywhere. They could force him to retire because he made so much money in Cincinnati that was like he never was that bad, but he was just at best above average that couldn't win a playoff game. Actually, in that case, you can compare him to Philip Rivers fairly well. Neither one could really win playoff games. So, let me go back on the Prescott situation for maybe the craziest thing that could happen. Even if he doesn't hold out, like, if or not he holds out, there's potential they wanted to franchise tag him. And I apologize for this because this may make some people cringe, but for the fact of where Prescott is from, I'm not saying for this year, but I'm saying in 2021, there is potential on the possibility of Prescott coming back home, going to the Saints. Because he is from Louisiana. I hope this doesn't happen because I don't want the Saints to have to put so much money into another quarterback this soon. If it's not someone who's kind of proven themselves in the system. Because if Hill's a starting quarterback, he's not like he might get like a $10 million deal to start. If it's Bridgewater, it's probably going to be like 15. Breeze is going to be like 20 to 30. Maybe a little bit more than that. I might be underestimating the costs, but this possibility in 2021 should scare some Saints fans. The fact that this could potentially happen, for one, it's going to end up messing up so much of the market that the Saints have actually been able to do to bring up with Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland, to where they've been able to build up their defense to where it is now. That is average, like that's at least average, if not a little bit above average. But this is just a few bit of my ideas. Now, if you like this video, please subscribe. Please let anyone else know about it. So, like, I enjoy doing this. This is fun for me. I want to do this more. I would like to be able to get this to where I could do this more frequently. But while I do work full time, I try to put this out at least a couple times a week. If y'all have any interest on any certain types of topics, any certain sports you want me to discuss, please go right ahead in the comment section. I will set up social medias in the near future. I'll set up to my Instagram, to my Twitter. Once I have this out, I'll put that out on video, and then we'll go from there. I'll let y'all know when everything's coming out. Now expect a couple ones coming in the next couple days through baseball, through potentially Actually, I probably will do a halfway point SEC basketball analysis, and I will probably do something that will go through maybe like Andy Katz's top 36 that he's put through, or like the current like bubble situation, or look through like bracketology or potential bracketology. But I've gone far enough. All right. This is Stat 7 Sports. I'm Contain Kunaz, and I'll see y'all next time.